Hey guys, it's Ernesto. Welcome back to another Monday Critique. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday. I'm having a wonderful Monday. Guys, we have two fantastic images to critique today. I know I always say that, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to critiquing these two images today. And I'm sure you guys are gonna look forward to it as well. So without further ado, let's jump straight into this intro and get into it. If you guys want to submit your image to be critiqued, please join our Facebook group. It's called Fine Art Photography and Modeling. In that group, I created a specific thread where you could submit your images to be critiqued. Hey guys, welcome back. All right, so the first image was submitted by this gentleman. Thank you very much for submitting your image. Now let's jump straight into it. So the very first thing that I like to start with, for the most part with every single image, is light. Guys, in this image, the image creator used a tiki light behind the subject to add that hair light and add that little bit of a rim light behind the subject, which I think is fantastic because I'm a big fan of utilizing whatever light is available around you and just pretty much utilizing that and maximizing that to the best of your ability to enhance the subject. So kudos to you for doing that. All right, so now let's talk about the main light in this image. So he had a light on camera right to help light up the subject in this image. Now, the problem that I have with the light setup in this image is that I'm a big fan of adding depth and dimension in your image, and light is a big component in adding that depth and dimension. But light is only one component, and the other component that actually helps enhance and add depth and dimension to your image is the shadows. So I'm always about adding a little bit of shadows on the subject just to add that little depth and dimension to the image. So when I'm looking at this image, that's the one thing that I noticed that's missing. So I talked about broad lighting before in another video. I'm gonna probably link that video up here and you guys can go check it out. But broad lighting a subject, especially a female subject, makes the subject appear a little bit fuller, her face a little bit fuller. Now, if that's the effect that you're going for, it's totally perfectly fine. But if it's not the effect that you're going for, then you end up creating a little bit of an issue. So what I would have suggested you done here with respect to the subject is that I would have positioned the main light to camera left, given that the subject was turning her head to camera left. Position the main light to camera left, and that would have added a little bit of shadow on the right side of the subject, which is, I'm sorry, not the right, but her left side, and which is camera right. So it would add a little bit of shadow on the camera right of the subject, and that would add just a little bit of depth and dimension to this image. So that's what I would have done there with the main light. Now, if I reposition the main light, that means I had to reposition the tiki lights behind the subjects. Not that there's an issue with the tiki lights in this image right now, but I think if you're gonna reposition the main light like I'm suggesting, then you would have to reposition the tiki lights in the opposite direction of the main light. So that would be on camera right as opposed to camera left. So those are the things I would have adjusted in this image to help just add a little bit more depth and dimension. That's all I have to say with respect to the light. And I think for overall, great job in, pulling those tiki lights out and utilizing them as hair lights. I really like that. So with respect to the lighting, great job. Let's move on. All right, guys, now let's move on to the posing in this image. So from a posing perspective, I believe what you were trying to go for here was a provocative type pose, I think. If that's not right, just put a comment down below and let me know. But that's what I think you were going for here. And the reason I believe that's the case is because of the way the subject is dressed. Seems like she have on like her, her boyfriend shirt or a husband shirt or something like that. So here's a couple of things I would have done I think this is more combination of posing and wardrobe, right? So one thing I would have done, my wife always tells me this every time we do a photo shoot, because she usually helps me out with the wardrobes and on some of the photo shoots that we do. And one of the things she always, stressed to me is that you don't want to make the subject look bigger than they are, right? So the one thing that helps enhance that and adds that illusion of, making the subject larger than they appear is the clothing. So what she generally tries to do is tighten the clothing, like, putting a clip behind them to just basically tighten the clothing so it can caress their body a little bit more, so it doesn't add that bulkiness to the image. So when I look at this image, that's the first thing I notice. I think that the subject is a little bit bigger. So I'm pretty sure she is not fuller than, how she appears in the image. So when you're composing your image, I mean, all these things that we talk about here on the Monday Critique Show about, lighting, pose, and composition, etc. All those things being considered, wardrobes is also definitely a big concern when you're doing a photo shoot. You also have to consider what type of wardrobe the subject wears to basically add to the sense of, the vision that you're trying to portray, right? So in this particular case, you're trying to portray a more provocative image. So the couple of things I would suggest is either, tighten the clothing behind, maybe with a clip so the clothing can caress the subject a little bit more. Or maybe instead of the shirt, get maybe a smaller shirt, that could fit the subject a little bit more tighter as opposed to how it is right now. Or maybe get a tank top. Maybe she could wear her boyfriend or husband's tank top as opposed to this type of a shirt, because this shirt is pretty big. So that's one thing. All right, so another thing. Now let's talk about the posing. We just talk about the wardrobe and whatnot, but let's just talk about the posing. So with respect to the posing, and I think the posing in this particular instance, if you're maintaining the same composition and you're maintaining exactly where the subject is gonna stay, she's not gonna move, she's gonna stay right where she is. So let's go with that scenario and keep that scenario in mind, okay? The one thing I think you could add to this image to help sell that provocative image that you're trying to portray here is an introduction of the subject's hand. Now, placement of the hand is very important. So if you place the subject's hands on their face, that could be nice, very nice. Placing the subject's hands on her shoulder, again, that could be nice, but none of those things sells the provocative nature of this image. So what I would have done if it was me and the subject was there, composition had to remain the same, subject had to remain exactly where she is, where I would have placed the hand was right next to the subject's bust line, like right between her chest right here. I'm sorry guys, I just touched the mic. But right between her right between her bust line, okay? And just elegantly placing our hands there would have helped enhance this subject and sell that provocative nature of this shot. Another thing that would also help enhance this shot a little bit is her posture. Right now, her posture is a little bit slouch. So you want to make sure that she elevate her posture and basically straighten out her spine, and that will help, increase her bust line first of all, and it would just add that elegant nature to this image that's missing, okay? So I think if you look at all of those things overall with respect to the posing, when you're doing this again, I think that would help enhance your image just a little bit more. So with that said, we will move on. All right guys, now let's move on to the composition in this image. So from a compositional perspective, I gotta say this one is a little bit tough for me. And the reason it's a little bit tough is because I don't have enough information to go on. And the reason I don't have enough information to go on is because my guess is in this image, because of the provocative nature of this image, is that the subject may have a little bit more going on, full length wise with respect to this image. So my suggestion from a compositional perspective is to back up, come back a little bit more to include a little bit more of the subject. And I think if you have done that, I think that would have helped with this image a little bit more. So that is all I have to say with respect to the composition. I hope that was helpful. Thank you very much. All right, guys, now let's move on to image number 2. So this image was submitted by this gentleman. Thank you very much for submitting your image. Now, Carlos is no stranger to this Monday Critique show. He has submitted several images in the past. And I think, Carlos, this image is by far the best image I have seen from you so far, man. This image is awesome. I don't really know what I need to critique in it, but we're gonna go through it and we're gonna see what we could do here from a critique perspective, if anything. All right, guys, now let's start with the light in this image. So from a lighting perspective, Carlos used natural light in this image. Now, natural light, for the most part, most photographers try to say, okay, if you're a natural light shooter, you probably create like terrible images and you're not a real photographer. You need to basically learn about all this different light, you know, speed lights, strobes, etc., etc., etc. All that stuff is true, except for the part where you're not being a real photographer, right? Look, light is light. You use whatever light you need to use to create whatever image you need to create. If you need to add artificial light to help enhance the vision that you're trying to create, kudos to you, go for it. I personally utilize any type of light that I need to utilize to create an image. Natural light, artificial light, doesn't really matter. This image by Carlos is an example, in my opinion, of why it doesn't really matter what type of light you utilize. So again, Carlos is utilizing natural light in this image. Brilliant job in finding that light source on the subject's face. Brilliant job in basically having that light creating depth and dimension in this image. I really can't basically tell you to do anything else other than what you did in this image, because I probably would have done it the same way. Once I found that main light that would hit the subject's face, I would have had her turn her face directly into that light like you did to get that light in her face. And then after I get that light, check out what else is going on to see where I can get like depth and dimension in this image. So I think you did that. I think you did a brilliant job in doing that. And this is another reason why it doesn't really matter what light you use. Just use a light and you will create amazing images just like Carlos did. So great job with that light, Carlos. Let's move on. All right, guys, now let's move on to the pose in this image. Carlos, first of all, I hate you. I'm joking, of course, but I've been looking for a ballerina to shoot for the longest time. Ballerinas have the most incredible lines that I've ever seen. They're just natural dancers. I came across a dancer in New York just by random. I was just shooting in New York and I came across a dancer in New York. Man, do I love working with dancers. Dancers just create these great lines. I mean, this is just effortless. So your image, Carlos, this dancer made it very simple for you and very easy. Her lines is very elegant. It's very flawless. I love it. I wish it was my image. I wish I would get a chance to shoot a ballerina at some point in the future, but man, look, you and the ballerina created magic here. I love it. There's nothing else I could say with respect to your pose in this image. She did it flawlessly. So with that said, we will move on. All right, guys, now let's move on to the composition in this image. So from a compositional perspective, generally, you don't want to put your subject in a dead center of an image, okay? That's the general rule of thumb, right? Don't do that. But in this image, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't know if it matters to anybody else, but that doesn't really matter to me. I just feel like this composition in this image, along with the pose, the lighting and everything in this image, it just all came together pretty well. I love the framing. I love how you compose this image with the environment and the subject. I just love it. It's just brilliantly composed. There's nothing else I could say with respect to your composition. You know, it's great. I love it. Thank you very much, Carlos. I appreciate you submitting your image and every other image that you submitted so far. I'm looking forward to more. And I'm sure the viewers will be looking forward to more. So thank you very much, Carlos. All right, guys, now let's move on to the rating in these two images. Light. This image received a rating of 3. Pose. This image received a rating of 2. Composition. This image received a rating of 2. Overall, this image received a rating of 2.33 out of 5. All right, guys, now let's move on to image number 2. What will this one be? I don't know, but we'll find out. Light. This image received a rating of 5. Pose. This image received a rating of 5. Composition. This image received a rating of 5. Overall, this image received a rating of 5 out of 5. All right, guys, thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate you guys submitting those images. Michael, Carlos, you guys did an awesome job. Thank you again. I hope my feedback and my critique was helpful to you, and I hope it was helpful to the viewers out there. Now, if you, the viewers, or Carlos or Michael, if you guys have any additional feedback, please drop those feedback down below and let's keep this conversation going. It is always helpful to see your feedback, to see what you guys had to say, because it not only helps me, it also helps everybody else that read those comments. So please keep them going. Now, again, thank you. I really appreciate all your time and your attention to watching these videos and all the other videos that we have put out so far. Guys, this is video 29. We're about to hit video 30 next week. So I'm really enjoying this. So thank you again for all your support. That is it. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with your friends and family. And please put some feedback down below and let me know what you think about this video. And guys, if you got this far in the video, you must be enjoying this content and you must be enjoying this channel. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next Monday.